Welcome back to TV Chicagoland. This is Ray Hanania and my program 30 Minutes. I like to talk about a lot of different things, and I like to share my journalism work with you through this cable TV program. My writing focuses on two things: politics, Chicago politics, Illinois politics, national politics, and even international politics. I write about a lot of that. You can go to thehuffingtonpost.com and read my columns that are usually there about once a week, sometimes twice a week. You can go to a number of other websites like the Southwest News Herald. I used to write for the Arlington Heights Daily Herald, but they let me go. Partly because of budget constraints, but also partly because of complaints. Now, I consider myself a moderate, and I think that's the problem. Too many extremists in the world. Too many radical religious fanatics from the Middle East don't like a moderate viewpoint, especially from a Christian Arab like myself, but mostly because I'm a secular Arab. It's not because I'm Christian, but the extremists in the Islamic world don't like me because I'm a secular Arab. And I believe that Arab Americans have to control their fanatics. They have to get a control of their fanatics and, take back our causes. The Middle East is so important to us. So I write about politics, but of course my favorite is the Middle East. I'm Palestinian American, as you know, and I've been involved in journalism for over 32 years and also in advocating peace in the Middle East for the same amount of the same amount of time over the past 32 years. I also do stand-up comedy, and there were a couple shows back where you could sample some of my comedy. But what I want to do today is talk to you about a lot of the different things that I do in the media, because you can get an assortment of my opinions from different places. They're all connected through one web page, themediaoasis.com. You can go there and you can connect to everything about Ray Hanania's writings. And I've won numerous awards. 3 Society of Professional Journalists Lissiger Awards, and also about a year and a half ago I was named Best Ethnic American Columnist in America by the New American Media. So, there's some achievement there. You don't like to brag about it, but some people won't accept you unless you have some awards. So 3 Lissiger Awards is considered pretty good. And most of those were for column writing that I did over the years. 2 of them were just awarded over the last 4 years, which shows you that I've really kind of honed and focused my writing over the most recent period. So I wanted to talk to you about some of the different things that I've been doing that I think you might be interested in. First, I want to talk to you about podcasting. Now, many of you probably heard about podcasting. Podcasting is great. Podcasting is like an audio file that, we used to just call it like a tape recording, but because everything is digital now, what we do is we record interviews. And just to give you a little the technical side of podcasting, you record an interview, you upload it to a podcasting distribution site, like one of the most popular is iTunes.com. Now, why is that so important? Because if you have an iPod, and hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people have iPods today, an iPod is a manager of things that you're interested in. It isn't just music. You can hook up to iTunes with an iPod, and you could search through interview podcasts like mine, which is called Point to Point. And mine, I try to interview people. I do it in 2 genres. One is domestic and American politics from that perspective. And then the other one is Middle East politics. I love to talk about the Middle East. So I podcast interviews with people. And I record them. They're usually under 20 to 23 minutes long at the long side, but usually around 20 minutes. You connect your iPod through your computer to the internet through iTunes, and you can identify my program, for example, Point to Point with Ray Hanania, and tell the program that you want to download the most recent episodes. And it's really very cool. You just plug in your iPod and it automatically downloads my programs, because your computer when you run iTunes, will download the programs from the internet, and when you plug in your iPod, it'll transfer them very quickly to your iPod, and you can then listen to these interviews. The wisdom or lack of wisdom, if you're a critic, it doesn't matter, of Ray Hanania, and wherever you're at. You can be driving in a car, listening to your iPod. It's a lot better listening to me than talking to somebody on a cell phone, for example. You certainly don't want to listen to the people in the mainstream media, because the mainstream media is really changing. It's not that they're having trouble economic, and this is something we'll talk about later, but it has a lot to do with the fact that the mainstream media is just not trustworthy. You know how you get desperate? The mainstream media is very desperate because of the internet. Now, the internet has opened up doors to allow anybody to express an opinion and to report on facts. You can blog, you can do all this stuff. My podcasting, for example, for years I was on traditional media on WLS radio. Well, they said I was too nice. Now, this is back in the early 90s. I wasn't mean enough. So I left, and I haven't been back. Now, I've done some radio since then, but you have to get funding and financing. But the mainstream media is in an economic crunch. So what they're doing is they're pandering to stereotypes. They're pandering to the lowest common denominator of education, and they're giving you what they think you want because they don't think you're smart enough to understand. So like with me, I like to give you what I think is the truth, and I back it up with 32 years of journalism, and I say things that sometimes are not popular. I know the fanatics, the religious fanatics in the Middle East can't stand me. I know the extremists on the pro-Israeli side can't stand me, but I know the majority of people in the middle. Whether they agree or they don't agree with some of the things that I say, they understand that there is a middle ground of fact and truth that's not getting addressed. So what I do with podcasting is I interview people and I let them do the talking, because that's a nice part about it. And I podcast these interviews, I put them on my website. Again, you go to themediaoasis.com and you click point-to-point podcasting, and you can check out some of the programs that I have. And there are a lot of other programs, podcasts that you can subscribe to, and they're all free. There's no cost outside of the humongous cost of the internet, which has become basically a utility, right? I mean, we pay electricity, we pay telephone, we pay gas, and now we pay the internet. It's just, they figured out another way to hit us and slam us with a utility, but what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? So podcasting is very cool. So I have a whole series of podcasts online. Some of them are about the Middle East. I interview professional journalists in the Arab American media to talk to them about what it is that they're trying to do. Because I think the Arab American media is very important. An ethnic community is only as healthy as its news media, as its ethnic news media. The Arab American ethnic media is in very bad shape. And as a consequence, you, as the average American, you lose out because you don't get to hear the other side of the story. And that's how you become dumb. That's how you become uneducated. Americans are the most educated people in the world, but let's be honest, we are the least educated about the world. We don't get the whole picture. We don't have time to do the research. We depend on a mainstream media like the Tribune or the Sun-Times that only want to give you what they want to give you. They don't want to give you the truth. They want to restrict what they give you because they're competing for your dollars. It's not about informing you. It's about paying their bills. They're selling newspapers. News to them used to be about truth, but it's not. Now it's, let's just sell a product and let's see what we can get away with. And once in a while we might deal with some controversies if we feel like it. So podcasting is a great way to do that. Now that's audio podcasting. I also, if you go to themediaoasis.com, I do a lot of documentaries and I do a lot of video podcasting. Now, I'm doing video programming and documentaries, and I'm putting those online on Google. And some of them are on YouTube, but just a fundamental basic difference between the two to help you understand why Google over YouTube. YouTube is filled with garbage, this silliness. It's okay. You have to be under 10 minutes. if you produce a video on YouTube, it has to be under 10 minutes, which basically means it has to be under 100 megabytes. And it's uploaded. Now, Google has no limit on the size of the file. A 30-minute program on Google, generally, when it's compressed and rendered and edited from start to finish, is generally going to be about 250 megabytes. So you can't put a 30-minute program on YouTube, but you can on Google. So I put maybe, I don't know, about 100 videos on Google. And you can just Google Ray Hanania under video, or just Hanania, Hanania, and you can look at all the videos I've done. One of them that I'm really proud of is a documentary called Eyes of the Beholder. Muslims in America, and I really dissect the battle over the Orland Park Mosque. Number of months of the most vicious, ugly name-calling and attacks from people in Orland Park who are my neighbors. I live out in Orland Park. I love Orland Park. I think it can be better. So you can go online and again through my website at themediaoasis.com, and you can get information on my videos that are online. And eventually I will be video casting, which is the video version of podcasting, some video interviews that are going to be under 10 minutes, mainly because I want to make it easy for people to download them. So you can go there and you can download some of the videos and watch them. You can link to some of the video pages that I have where a number of these online videos are available, so you don't have to watch them on Comcast. I'm only here every Friday on this network, on Comcast, on Channel 19. Usually there are two big areas where they distribute me, 7 o'clock in one area, and 8:30 at night in another area. So whatever time you're watching this is generally the time that you're going to be seeing it. And who knows, they might change it. They may kick me off. Let's face it, cable TV isn't much different than the mainstream American media. That's one reason why Comcast wouldn't allow Al Jazeera to be broadcast on Comcast. God forbid that you might be able to hear another perspective on the Middle East. We don't want to destroy your lives, We don't want to shock the Americans with the truth. So it's so much better to believe the lie than it is sometimes to believe the truth. And broadcasting Al Jazeera would just kind of confuse us. We don't want to confuse. We don't want to confuse the media. The mainstream media doesn't want to confuse the very confused mainstream American public. We like it the way it is. We're happy sometimes with mediocre things. We shouldn't be. We should be open to everything. We should be listening and watching to Al Jazeera because, we'll understand the Middle East better. We'll understand why we got into trouble in Iraq. We'll understand how we got into some of the problems because there are different groups between Shiites and Sunnis. We would understand these things, and we wouldn't be in Iraq. We wouldn't be losing soldiers who are dying every day in Iraq, fighting a war that's worthless. A war that if we had not gone into, we wouldn't be losing soldiers, and we would be winning the war on terrorism. But as you know, we're not winning the war on terrorism, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can just read the comments of many of our military leaders in active duty who are saying that Al-Qaeda is becoming stronger and stronger. And part of the reason it isn't just about terrorism and military might, it's about education and intelligence. We need to be the smartest people possible. Americans, we need to understand things better. We need to stop stereotyping and profiling. We should factualize, or you're going to profile truth maybe. Apply the truth. Open your mind and your ears. Listen to different points of view. Change the way you look at the world. Because you're smart. You have a brain. You don't need somebody telling you what to think or not to think. You subscribe to the Chicago Tribune. What a waste of money subscribing to the Tribune. First of all, you can get it for free online, but on the other side, they only give you about 80% of the opinions because they don't want you to know the truth. They're advocates for causes. They don't care about honesty. There's some great reporters at the Tribune, and I'm sure some of them will be mad, but I don't really care because truth is more important. hearing all sides. That's what we should be about. And that's what I do at the Media Oasis. At themediaoasis.com, so you can get podcasting, my podcast there. You can also connect to some of my online videos that I do. And believe me, you watch my stuff, your mind will be too open. I don't know, you may be embarrassed. It'll be like, wow, I didn't know I was so smart listening and reading all this stuff. I mean, I'm not going to say you're going to agree with me, you may not. But you are going to hear things that you never hear in the lousy, crappy news media that we have, not just in Chicago, but in the rest of the country. It's pathetic. It really is. And what they do, what's really interesting about the media is they pit you against your neighbor. They say, well, you're a Republican and you're a Democrat. You have to hate each other. And then they play into it. You're so focused on the battle that you forget that you're being manipulated by the news media, which is controlled by these big corporations, you know, these national, multinational companies like the oil companies. It's all a bunch of baloney. You got to get past that. So this is one way to do it. The other thing you can do at my website is you can link to a number of blogs that I write. And I write blogs in different categories. I have one blog about Orland Park, called OrlandParker.com. Orland, Parker.com. Now at OrlandParker.com, you can get some of the information about Orland Park that you'll never get in any of the local papers. Perspectives that are critical. And a lot of times people say, Ray, you're too critical. Why do you criticize? Well, you know what? I don't just criticize everyday people, average people on the street. I criticize our alleged leaders. I criticize our elected public officials. I criticize our government officials. You want to know why? Because criticism is part of accountability. Now, accountability is what we don't get from our elected leaders. We pay them to do the job that they do. So they shouldn't come to us and get awards and say, hey, I cleaned your street for you. Why don't you thank me? No, that's not what they should be doing. We should be saying to them, you know, you clean the street because we pay you to clean the street. We pay you to have a meeting every other week. We pay you to manage our budget. We pay you to do these things. These are things that you're supposed to do. But what they do is they make it look like they're doing you and me a favor in government. They're not doing us a favor. They're maniacs, okay? That's so, you know what, I could write and say, oh, you know, Mayor McLaughlin is doing a great thing, blah, 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 like a lot of the media are doing, right? Oh, he's so great. You know, he's a second coming of Christ, the way some of the people talk about him. But you know what, I prefer to be critical, to analyze and observe the Mayor McLaughlin in Orland Park, and you should be doing the same thing in your community, and because you want to make him accountable. If he thinks you're sleeping, if a politician thinks you're asleep, they will do anything they want, and they usually will help themselves. They're going to help you because they have to do it. They'll make you think they're doing you a favor, but in the end, what they're doing is they're distracting you from what they're really doing. They're building their own clout. They're building their own machines. They're raising their own money. They're giving their family, friends, and their buddies jobs. They get out there. They want to make themselves look good because it brings clout and power. So instead of empowering the people and making Orland Park the best community they can, they make Orland Park a good community. You know, and I love it. It's a great community, but it can be so much greater if our elected officials were really accountable and they stopped playing politics. Save the politics for the election, okay? But when it comes to Orland Park, if you're not mowing the lawn at the police headquarters, okay, and it's an eyesore, it's terrible. Why? But they're out there passing legislation and resolutions saying that if you don't mow your lawn, or if you don't take care of your property, you should be fined. But they don't hold themselves to the same standard. Practice what you preach, right? Criticism is about accountability. So you can go read all this stuff about Orland Park and my writings about Orland Park at my blog called OrlandParker.com. huffingtonpost.com, and it'll be on the screen while I'm talking. Of course, it's all part of technology. There are other neat little things. I write for the Huffington Post, I told you. Now, the Huffington Post is a #1 website on the internet. Millions and millions of people read these columns. It's tremendous. So I try to focus on issues that are of most interest to the audience, to the public. So I don't get into these little things, because really, Orland Park, believe it or not, I know that when that Orland Park mosque issue came up, 600 angry people, most of them that just didn't know what Muslim or Islam was all about. And I'm not a Muslim, by the way, but I think Muslims are great people, and I think that the religious extremists, they're not Muslim or Islamic extremists, they're religious extremists, and we have them on both sides, really kind of scared the average American who doesn't know what the heck is going on in the world. And they said, oh, you build a mosque, Osama bin Laden is going to come to Orland Park and kill our people. And I'm going, okay, yeah, I can just imagine Osama bin Laden in his little cave, pointing to a map, going, okay, which of you terrorists is responsible for Orland Park? We want none of them. Nobody. They don't care about Orland Park. They really don't care. So I don't write about Orland Park on the Huffington Post, because nobody cares about us. We're just one of a million communities in the United States where our elected officials do a poor job of doing what they're supposed to do. They do what they need to do so that you just won't get bothered. And then they get these phony issues like they don't want to allow a Muslim to have a place to go pray because some moronic terrorist nut job like Osama bin Laden decided to attack the United States. And of course, he's still alive. We haven't done a very good job of hunting him down, although we did capture Saddam Hussein, though, right? Oh yeah, that was a waste of time. So you can read the Huffington Post. I have a lot of other blogs. I have a lot of other little things. In fact, let me go right online here, and I'm going to hook up right now to the Media Oasis, the MediaOasis.com, and you'll be able to see a number of the things that I have. Of course, I got to have glasses on to do this. The MediaOasis.com. And I have a blog that addresses journalism topics too, because I tell you what, as much as I love to beat on politicians, I love to beat up on the news media, because the news media, they're the worst. They're the biggest hypocrites of anybody. Politicians, they're supposed to lie to us, right? Aren't they? They lie to us like crazy. You ever meet a politician who didn't lie? They're all liars, okay? It's just that we have to go with the least evil of the bunch. That's the way our political system is based. The least of the worst is the person who's probably going to be the best of the bunch. It's a relative thing. It's very sad about American politics, but that's the way it is. But you could go to my journalism blog at the Society of Professional Journalists, and you can read about some of the issues that I like to rip apart in the mainstream American media. Sports, too. I'm not a big sports guy, but I got into a little thing with Bonnie Bernstein, who is a reporter at ESPN, who made kind of a racist comment, and I asked her, I'm with the National Arab American Journalists Association, and I asked her to apologize, and she did apologize. She made this comparison that stereotyped an entire people in a very negative way, and it's wrong. There are negative things that happen in the world, but you don't put a racial or ethnic face to it. You don't say black people did this. You don't say Polish people are like that. You don't say Irish people. You say that guy is a lousy father. You say that guy is a terrorist. You don't look at their ethnicity to try and excuse away the fact that we haven't done a good job of policing this country and protecting our country. Profiling is stereotyping. Stereotyping is racism. When I pointed that out to Bonnie, she immediately apologized, and I think she did the right thing. Now, there's some extremists in the Arab community who are upset because, they wanted to make a martyr out of Bonnie Bernstein, and I won't do that. And I think she did, she corrected, she didn't advocate a stereotype, she borrowed it from, of course, the mainstream media, the New York Times. Probably when it comes to the Middle East, the New York Times is the least reputable of all the publications out there. So she did that. You can also get a number of my books I write a lot of books, and let me show you one of them right here on this little pile, if I can get it without knocking everything over. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, there it goes. Knocked everything over. Okay, it's called The Catastrophe. The Catastrophe is this new book that I wrote that you can buy online. It's about 250 pages, and basically it defines how the fanatic secular Arab left and the extremist Islamic right took the disaster brought on by the creation of Israel and, using rejection and violence, hijacked the just Palestinian cause and prevented statehood. The bottom line is that it isn't about Arabs versus Israelis. It's about extremists versus moderates. It's the moderate that needs to come together, not on the basis of race or religion, but on the basis of reason, being fair, really looking for justice. So what I do is I talk about the extremism that exists in the Arab community and the Muslim community and the Christian Arab community, and how these small handfuls of extremists have taken control of our country. So that's a book if you're interested in picking it up. Another thing that I do that I think you're going to like, and all this is in communications, is stand-up comedy. I perform with the Israeli-Palestinian Comedy Tour, and we just came back from the Hamptons in New York. Talk about wealthy people. Oh my God, it was beautiful. We spent 2 weekends there. At the 2 weekends at the end of June, and we did a comedy show for a group called Shalva. Their website is shalva.org. Now, Shalva raises money to help little children who are handicapped, usually mental handicaps, handicaps that have to do with their ability to control their bodies. And it's really tragic. And they don't just help Israeli and Jewish kids. They help some Christian kids, some Muslim kids, Arabs and Israelis. They have 2 centers in Israel. They're opening a new one, a very large center. So I was very proud to perform comedy for them. I also would perform comedy for the Arab community causes, but the Arabs are caught in a battle between the extremists and the silent and cowering moderates in the Arab community, because they're afraid of the extremists. They're afraid to speak out against them. And that's where the book comes in, The Catastrophe, because the real catastrophe is the destruction of the moderate existence in the secular Arab world. In the Arab community, the secular Arabs are being erased. We're being pushed out. The moderates are being silenced, and we're being replaced by fanatics in the Arab world. So you can go there and you can link to my stand-up comedy. And then finally, one of the things that I like to do, because it has to do with satire, it's a place where I can mix humor, where I can mix very biting satire and political commentary, and that's cartoons. I like to draw cartoons. Now, I'm getting better at it. Now, I don't have a very steady hand, but I have some new software, and I can promise you the cartoons are going to be better. But you can go to my website and link, hyperlink to the cartoon website, and you can read some of the cartoons that I've done. So listen, that's it for now. So you got podcasting. You can go to my website at themediaoasis.com. You can link to my podcasts. You can download them to your iPods. You can watch some of my online videos. This program will be online too. It'll be on my website at themediaoasis.com. You can check out some of the books that I have online that you might be interested in reading, that might help educate you about the Middle East. You can read some of my columns. All my columns are linked online. You can link to my collection of columns at thehuffingtonpost.com. You can read my blogs on Orland Park, on Chicago politics, on defining the moderate Arab voice. I have a blog on that topic too. Go to my website, themediaoasis.com. Open your mind, live, learn, make your own decision. Don't let some doofus in the media tell you what to believe. Don't even let me tell you what to believe, okay? Figure out what the truth is by listening to everything. Try your best and make sure you hear both sides of a topic, especially when it comes to the Middle East, because the Middle East directly impacts your pocketbook. And I'd love to hear what you think about any of these topics or anything that I write or read or interview or talk about from my website. There's a place where you can email me, or you can just post an anonymous view on one of the chat boards that I link up. You can look me up on Facebook too. There's a link on my website, and you can keep tabs of me on Twitter. Twitter.com is a great place. You should check it out. We'll see you later. This is Ray Hanania here at TV Chicagoland. 30 minutes. We'll check you out on our next episode. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.